Hello everybody, I am back for the second video tonight because I have been well and truly caught out by QPR's announcement of Mark Warburton as their new manager. I was obviously driving home and focused on my playoff statistics video, which I put out slightly earlier tonight. So I missed the actual announcement. Warburton was mooted to have agreed everything a night or two ago, actually. I hadn't heard anything come through. So Rangers have waited until sort of about 5 o'clock today to announce that the former Brentford, Rangers, Forest manager Mark Warburton is going to be the new QPR manager on a 2-year contract. Interesting one, actually. Be interested to see how this one plays out for two reasons. One is that QPR are quite interesting, and two, Warburton is quite interesting. Let's start with Warburton. I think everyone kind of knows the interesting route he took because he was involved as a trader after he finished playing, and I don't know what that does in respects of your outlook, but sometimes people never go outside the football bubble and have those other experiences. They go straight from playing to management. So I don't know whether there's anything in that. And I don't know whether that links up with the kind of numbers, Moneyball outlook that was used at Brentford while he was there. Again, if you're a Bees fan, you can fact check me on that, because I know a lot of this happened at the same time with Warburton starting there as sporting director, and the ownership there, whether it came from above him or not, I don't know. But Warburton certainly involved in and around the start of that, using metrics and foreign purchases that's seen Brentford become statistical darlings, really. And it's a great model that Brentford have used for a long while. So Warburton was there at the start of that, sporting director, and then he went in as manager and actually oversaw their best season in 14-15. They were in the playoffs, I believe they finished 5th, or did they finish 4th? 4th or 5th. I know they lost to Borough in the playoffs, so fact check me on that one. But without any wish to be patronising, to take Brentford and put them into the playoffs is always going to be a good achievement, given that's somewhere that historically they've not been that often, if ever. I'm not sure. Again, fact check me on that one. Certainly been a long while since Brentford would have been that high. And that was the peak for Brentford. They haven't got close to it since. And this is where Warburton does become a little bit interesting, because lots of rumblings and rumour and innuendo about Warburton and his partner in crime, Frank McParland, who he always uses as I guess, the guy who gets the players for him. I don't know what the actual title of that would be. Possibly sporting director, actually. But those two guys, Warburton and McParland, tied very, very close together, and I think some not too good rumblings about how that all ended at Brentford. So on they go, and they both go off to Glasgow Rangers. And as you know, if you watch the channel rather, I would consider myself quite knowledgeable about the Championship. I've seen it coming on for 140 games in the last 2 seasons of Championship football. So I'm not an expert on Scottish football. Warburton goes up to Glasgow Rangers, and this is at the back end of Rangers getting themselves back into the top division. I think he was responsible for some promotions there, at least one. Again, fact check me on that one. Had one of my favourite players, Martin Waghorn. In fact, Martin Waghorn and Joe Garner sold to Ipswich. So managed to get some decent level players who, without insulting Scottish football, a lot of people say players go between the Championship and the Scottish Premier League and thrive in either. So a couple of good players in that side. I guess it was an interesting time to manage Rangers because of the the relegations and the administrations and all of that jazz. When they were in the lower divisions, they obviously had a massive advantage in terms of support and revenues, you would think, at that level, working their way back up. But again, I think not the best ending there at Rangers. Mutual consent announced and Warburton denying this. So off he goes. And he ends up at Nottingham Forest, which just didn't work at all, really. And obviously Forest have got a horrible reputation of changing their manager literally every December. Now, new one coming in, having some signings and then getting kicked out again the following year. So this is where we would talk about Warburton and building a philosophy and a playing style, which I think he had time to do at Brentford. Rangers is a bit more difficult to analyse, but didn't get the time to do what he wanted to do at Forest. It wasn't going well. I think they were lower mid-table, and he was only there for half a season, and as per usual, bang, go Forest. And I think I might be right in saying that would have coincided with possibly an ownership change as well. I think that might coincide with Marianakis coming in and wanting Karanka anyway. But what I saw, Ipswich played Forest in December of that season, and it looked like the Forest players weren't quite up to what he was asking them to do yet. Not saying they wouldn't have been in the end, and a Mick McCarthy Ipswich team managed to pick them off, and you could see the issues and you could see that it was going to take time. So Warburton disappears, and that would have been December 2017, yes. So he hasn't been in it now for, year and a half. Always gets linked with a lot of championship jobs, but he's gone in now at QPR, and the reason I say QPR are interesting, well, there's a few reasons why QPR are interesting. Obviously, they still seem to be on the climb back from big financial problems and the hangover from that incredibly expensive relegation, and the FFP fine is still being paid. I don't know if it's at that higher rate. My brain is telling me 6 million a year or something they pay, and they ultimately won't pay 42 million. So there are financial constraints. As with every championship team that does not have parachute payments, QPR, their parachute payments have gone. There's going to be a financial struggle. I don't know what QPR's revenues are like commercially. They're in a good part of the world. They're linked with a lot of good finance people, but it's not a big stadium and they don't have parachute money. And obviously we now know that the EFL do police FFP, with Birmingham having had the fine. So I think Warburton isn't going to have a great deal of money to spend at QPR. It looked like Steve McLaren was doing really well there, certainly at Christmas time, and then that all went off a cliff, as it tends to do with McLaren. So I think what we need to see from QPR here is not what Forest did and give him the 3 months, 4 months, and out he goes if they're not winning. They finished in the third quartile down. I don't know where QPR finished. Must have been 18th, 19th, 17th, around there somewhere. So their expectations have got to be there or improvement. So maybe that will buy him a little time, which he didn't get at Forest. I would expect to see him start to try and build the same philosophy of good scouting, using metrics, very much the Brentford thing, and passing football, statistically based football, as in high percentage work of passes and keeping the ball, that sort of model that's worked for him before. So what needs to happen for QPR to be successful is for Warburton to get some money to spend and add to what they've got. Obviously, if you don't add to a squad that's finished 18th and other teams improve, then you're gonna drop lower down unless you do some miraculous stuff on the training ground. It's a possibility, but it's a slim possibility, I think. I think he needs time to build up the philosophy there, and maybe a few more fans in at Loftus Road might generate some more commercial stuff for him to spend without there being the parachute money there. Hopefully they don't get restless with him and they let him see out his 2-year contract. I think it's going to be a hard season for QPR next season, though, because there's not going to be a great deal of money. He's going to have to pull out some of the kind of good work that he did at Brentford. So it really does rely on that starting to work pretty quickly. If it does work, then there's a proven model. But as we know about Brentford, this has been years in the making, and they now turn it over year after year after year, and it always seems to work. So it's going to be an interesting one. Expect some new unknown faces. That some will be good, some will not be good. Expect some turnover in staff. Expect McLaren was quite pragmatic with the football, very deliberate. I always said about QPR under McLaren, it was little fast flurries of attack, but very organised and maybe a little bit stiff. So expect that to loosen up a little bit, but it may take some time for that to work itself out. But be interested to see how people think that Warburton will go on. I don't know whether Frank McParland goes there with him, or what the deal is there with those two, but it's been a relationship that has worked before for Warburton. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you think he's going to do well, obviously let me know why. Don't just say he's going to be brilliant or he's going to be terrible. Try and give some kind of reasoning to it, because either way could happen. And as we know, most people in the Championship do not last the 2 years that Warburton has for his contract now. So will be interesting to see. And if you are a QPR fan, what are the expectations, given there's not a huge deal of money, there's not parachute money, there's still stuff to spend in terms of the fines, it's not a big stadium. What would represent success in 2019-24 QPR? Let me know what you think in the comments. As I say, I've just freestyled that, so anything I got wrong, do feel free to correct me, just be nice about it. And hopefully we can get some good debate on how we think Mark Warburton's return to the Championship with QPR is going to go. Thank you for watching. Hit subscribe, thumbs up, comment, hit that bell to be notified. Follow me on Twitter at Benjamin Bloom, and apologise for 2 videos that look exactly the same within 2 hours, but we have a good record on the channel here of reacting to all Championship hiring and firing. So we got to keep that up, haven't we? Thank you for watching. More playoff stuff as we go. Look forward to seeing your replies in the comments, especially if there's QPR fans watching. Thank you very much.